This interview is a part of the Oklahoma Historical Society's Oral History Program, Living Legends Collection. This interview was originally conducted on the 2nd of March, 1965. The interview is conducted by Mr. Frank Doyle. The interviewee is Mr. John Sinopoulo of Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. This interview is being re-recorded on April the 12th, 1985 for inclusion in the permanent collections of the Oral History Program by Judith Michener.
On this, this is the second day of March in 1965, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
A windy March day. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
And we have the privilege now of sitting in the office of Mr. John Sinopoulo. Is that the correct pronunciation?
Yes, sir.
Here in the Midwest Building in downtown Oklahoma City. And Mr. Sinopoulo, as I mentioned earlier, the college appreciates your contributing your time and some of your memories and some of the ideas and some of the experiences you've had here in Oklahoma City. When did you come here to the city?
In 1902,
1902. And from where?
from St. Louis.
From St.
I
Louis?
came here from St. Louis.
How long were you in St. Louis?
10 years.
10 years. And then before that?
Oh, before that I was in Greece.
You came from what part of Greece, sir?
Sparta.
Sparta. Historical name.
It is.
Marvelous.
Last year we spent about 10 months there.
You did. How long?
I have a lot of relatives there, and we stay there visiting around, and we help little thing here and there. School that they didn't have any facilities, we helped to fix that for them because
Uh-huh.
Greece is a poor country,
Yes, sir.
and this school that was built in '55, they have about 185 children,
Mm-hmm.
elementary school. And all these years, we went there in '63.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have facilities. Children go out all kinds of weather out in across the street. There was a kind of a river.
Uh-huh.
And so my wife and I, we pitched in there and we helped to give them not only facilities for, but some showers.
Oh, yeah.
That some of the children there, they never have a shower for the time they was born. And then in the bottom of the school, I mean the basement of the school, there was a great big room.
Mm-hmm.
The entire width and length of the room, that it wasn't finished. It was just a dirt floor.
Mm-hmm.
Rain, when it rained sometimes, seeped in there.
Mm-hmm.
So we fixed that with terrazzo and fixed up the walls with plaster and the ceiling with fluorescent lights. And we made a kitchen out there for them. Now, all the about 50 or 60 poor children every day, they get their noon lunch there.
Uh-huh.
They cook it right there and
Uh-huh.
they give it hot to them, and they give them practically like they do in the army. Some days this, some next day that.
Uh-huh.
Build up their physique and
Uh-huh.
well-being.
And good, well-balanced meals.
Yes, do that.
What did your family do years ago in Greece?
Well, my people poor people. They have over there maybe few pieces of land that they cultivate for wheat or corn, and they have their olives there, which is their main source of cooking. They don't use butter there, olive oil. That's wonderful.
Right.
That's
Why did you come to this country?
Why did I come here? Well, I had half a brother here that he lived in St. Louis at that time, and he sent for me. And I didn't finish high school, first high school. So I came to this country and
Went to St. Louis.
went to St. Louis.
You finished school there?
No. He tried to send me to school, and then this teacher that I went to, he gave me a page to read from here to there, and when I go back to see him, I read it to him, and he says, well, all right. He says, now you come tomorrow and read from here to there. Well, I says to myself, if that's all he's going to teach me here, I must stay home and tell to myself to read from here to there.
What did you do in St. Louis then?
What I do?
Yeah, what work did you do?
Well, my brother, he set me up in a spot that they used to transfer people from, the cars they stop here,
Yes.
and then from here they go to Forest Park. There was a park there.
Yes, sir.
And on Sundays and evenings, and then there's quite a neighborhood out there
Right.
that people live around there. And then he had one of those rented a space there in a vacant lot, and he had one of those awnings.
Yes, sir.
And then he had in this place, he had little soda fountain, and he had some sandwiches, cigars, pies, things of that sort. And people, when they get off there, they'll just come over, and if he left me there alone because he went to St. Louis, even in the city, on other place of candy store he had. And I didn't speak hardly any English at all, but I watched them when they come up there, and they wanted, say, a lemon soda. He taught me how to make soda, and I take the glass and I put it right in one of those faucets. And if he looked at me and he said I wasn't it, I'd just push it to the other one. Till he told me it was all right, then I fixed it up for him. That was it. And same thing with this candy, and I watched them see what they wanted, and they understood that I was agreeing there, and they cooperated with me.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It was
You stayed there for 10 years then?
not in the same place, no.
No, but in St. Louis
In
itself.
St. Louis, yeah.
Do you remember Jim Martikas? The Grecian Gardens? Might have been after you left. Jim Martikas. It was a fine Greek restaurant down near the river. Down near the river.
Oh.
Grecian Gardens. Well, nevertheless, then you came here to Oklahoma City, right?
Yes.
Why did you come out here? Go into business or what?
Well, we came here at the invitation of a man that he came down here, and he looked over this country. It was a new country then. And he went to Lawton, then he came here, and they looked over this city, And he went out here to the place where it was after called the Colcord Park.
Oh, yes.
And he bought 160 acres.
Mhm.
And he told Mr. Colcord what he was going to do. He was going to make an amusement place out of that.
Mhm.
Well, then Mr. Colcord at that time, he thought possibly he may like to cut in with him.
Mhm.
So he took half interest.
Mhm.
And this man, he was a very smart fella.
Who was he?
His name was Baumhof.
Baumhof.
Baumhof. His brother was postmaster of St. Louis.
Mhm.
And this Baumhof, he was a manager of the St. Louis Transportation Company. They has the streetcars.
Right.
And myself and another person by name Marie Italian,
Mhm.
he had a saloon on Washington Avenue.
Mhm.
And in front we had a candy store. And Baumhof, he thought possibly that we could be pretty good tenants to build this amusement park for us to operate.
Mhm.
And we came out here and we looked it over and he had a plans. And we made a lease contract to operate the garden,
Was that Delmar Gardens?
Delmar Garden.
Uh-huh.
We had a theater there that seated about 1,500 people.
Hmm.
And in this theater, it was built so the sides, with a platform where that you could put a table and the chairs,
Mhm.
and we served some beer out there, some sandwiches.
Mhm.
And people come in there and buy the ticket. They go into the theater and they can watch the show. And sometime drink beer
Have a sandwich.
and have a sandwich. We played vaudeville at that time.
Mhm.
And the only place of amusement this side of Kansas City.
Hmm.
And you'd be surprised to tell you that those days, the traveling men, they didn't have the accommodations they have now.
Right.
They would leave Broadway in New York and come down here and see some of the acts that we played out there that they have seen on Broadway 2-3 weeks before that. They were amazed and surprised how that could be done.
Hmm.
But the theater was not a paid proposition, but we were selling beer and other things. And we had a merry-go-round, and we had circle swing, and we had they call it roller coaster, but the scenic railway we used to call it.
Uh-huh.
And
Where was that Delmar Gardens?
well, you'll be surprised how the thing has changed since then. It's practically where the Oklahoma Railway Company has the ropes is now.
Mhm.
Possibly, I think now that was the saloon.
On what streets?
There was no street. It was just the
What
not
street is it
exact
now?
Exchange Avenue.
Oh, Exchange.
Exchange Avenue,
Uh-huh.
yes. And then, pardon me, we had a racetrack down there,
Mm.
and we had a baseball park
Uh-huh.
in that area. In the racetrack, pardon me, there was a horse by name Dan Patch that lowered its record
Right.
there in that park, a half-mile track. And then we had cattlemen's conventions and things of that sort down there. And at one time, we had Geronimo. We rode in the same cab with Geronimo.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
Yes, sir. And Geronimo and Parker, they made a race down there. You know who Parker was, don't you? Well, old Geronimo, he would have a place where he was sitting, and people would like to give his signature, yes,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to give him a dime. Those were the days. But to tell you about the vaudeville we had there,
Yes, sir.
Elsie Jennings played there at $135 a week.
Mm.
And a little bit later, you know, she got $2,000 on Broadway.
Oh, boy.
But
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
those days, our maximum pay for acts was for two in a team.
Mm-hmm.
They would get 100 and a quarter, about $75 for a single. It had to be good. But we had some good ones because they were sent here and we played them 2 weeks because they didn't have other place to go, and we had to take them for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And our price was only 50 cents. 25 and 50 cents for
Oh.
children.
You had some of the real big names here.
Oh, big names, yes. We had John Sullivan there,
Mm-hmm.
and he had John Sullivan. He didn't do any fighting or anything like that on the boxing, but he had a man by name Barry with him. And Barry, he would bet anybody, or give anybody $50 if he stayed 3 rounds. He was a boxer.
Mm-hmm.
And but John Sullivan, he would come out and he'd make a little talk. And I remember some of his few words that he would say, that he was a fat man, he was big man,
Big man.
fat man. He says, if I had as much pleasure that I put on to take it off, he says, I'll do it. Some words to that effect.
Yes. That must have been a grand old place out there, wasn't it?
Oh, why? We played out there. Some of the Sardou plays. We played Anthony and Cleopatra out there.
For heaven's sake.
Yes, sir. We had a fellow by the name of Healy was the manager, and he would come ahead and recruit some of for the soldiers, you know, and so forth and so on.
What years were those?
1904 and 5.
1904 and 5. What did you do after that? How long did you stay out there, sir?
Well, out there, after the Prohibition came along, then
They cut that out pretty well.
the business was not good. But it come along where the second plan, Morris plan, was knocking the door to come in here. And they wanted $300,000 bonus. The first plan that came in here, they had to give him a bonus to locate here.
First plant.
First plan. And the citizens here, they got together and they went out and they bought several farms out there. And when they announced the location of the plant out there, they cut it up in lots. And they sold those lots enough to pay for the bonus that they gave to this plant. So they wasn't out of anything. Well, the second plant come along, then they come along and they made us an offer to buy our 160 acres. In the meantime, I forgot to tell you that we bought the St. Louis people out.
Oh.
And Mr. Marie was my associate. He was Italian, a very fine man. He knew his saloon business. He knew how to mix new whiskey with old whiskey. He was very good at that. And we sold it to them. But as it happened,
What plant was it, you know?
well, one of the two. We had two out there. Wilson,
Packing plants.
packing plants, yeah.
Wilson and Armour, wasn't it?
Yes.
Or Swift.
Swift, not Swift. No. They changed names, you know.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot now, but there was two plants here.
Yes.
Now it's one, isn't it?
Yes, Wilson.
Yeah, it's
Just
one
one
now.
now, Wilson.
Yeah. It wasn't Swift, I'm pretty sure. It was another name that
Armour?
possibly Armour. Possibly Armour. Not quite sure.
When was that? In about 19 what?
Well, it was to be in 1909. No, yeah, about something like that.
So you sold that property then?
We sold that property.
And what'd you do then?
Well, we opened up an aerodrome down here where the Biltmore Hotel is now.
Opened up what?
Aerodrome.
Oh, yeah.
Aerodrome, yes. We just moving pictures, and
Oh, yeah.
we had a girl here by the name of Renstrom. She sang between,
Oh, yeah.
and you know they had those
Slide. Oh, the slides with
slides.
the...
Yes.
Yeah. Follow the, almost like the old bouncing ball, huh?
Yes.
Without the bouncing ball.
And then we opened up a theater where the Cravens building is now. We call it the Lyric Theater.
Where the what building?
The Cravens building.
Oh, Craven's building.
Yeah.
Lyric Theater.
We built the Lyric Aerodrome there.
That was one of the first ones then, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Pretty good sized theater?
Oh, you'd sit about 1,500. Yes, pretty good size here. And we played 4, 5 acts, and when the first Edison pictures come out, we put them in too. And we just pack them. We play 5, 6 shows a day.
How much do you have to charge?
10 cents.
10 cents.
People, they'll come in and they'll stand outside to get in, then one foot and then another till we let them out. And we played some acts down there. We played
I'm trying to remember.
big name, minstrel, big name.
Minstrels?
Minstrel, yes.
Oh, yeah. I can't recall them.
Well, I remember a lot of minstrel names, but this particular name I cannot come to my mind right now, but
How long was the Lyric there?
well, it was till about 17 or 18. Then we just move over to the Overhorse Theater then.
The one that's just been torn down.
Yes, sir. But after we moved to the Overhorse Theater, it wasn't very long before we bought it because we had a strike. We had a strike of all the musicians, the stagehands, and the actors. They had a fuss with the main office. The acts we were booking down here, they came out of the Albee office, which was the Palace Theater of New York.
Right.
And Albee and Moldok. They had practically the control of all the acts, you might call it.
Yes.
But this association, they call themselves the White Rats of America. They had some grievances, and in order to gain their point, there was one of their I don't know what you call those heads of an organization, not the heads of the organization, but of the down the line.
Yes. In the union, you mean?
Union, yes.
Yes. Like
Well,
the organizer.
her name was Young Blood Carson, and she lived in Anadarko. She came from Anadarko. And they thought because she was close to Oklahoma, she was Oklahoma, of course, that she would be an influence for them to pull the strike here.
Right.
And for no reason at all, we didn't have no grievances with those at all, but these actors, these white-eyed actors, they came out here and they made these people to show them the goods, you know, and told them if they get in with them that they could get anything they wanted. And they got signed up, the stagehands and the musicians, and they all went out. Well, there we were, a strike for no reason at all, and they start to picket back and forth, back and forth. Well, now this Albee and Moldok, they didn't want them to gain control of anything, so they helped us. And they sent acts down here, and the union, they'll pick them up out of the train where they come in.
Yes, sir.
And instead of us playing the lyric, they rented the theater down here they called the Palace then. And they put them in there. And we tried to replaying their trunks back and forth, but they were, and we didn't have quite cooperation here from the offices. You know, the union sometimes they're arrogant and they do things that ordinary person wouldn't do. Well, anyway, sometimes they'll send a double team so they can take some and then we'll get some. Well, finally, they sent us down here an orchestra, a ladies' orchestra, and she was good, a good orchestra. And we kept on playing there, and keep on setting us acts, and we keep on opening up, and they even pay the payroll for they pay for the acts, and they pay for the orchestra, and so we were floating along until their aims was frustrated, and they practically broke the strike. Broke the strike, and we went back in business again. But after that strike,
Yes, sir.
they asked us to come to New York, and they had a big banquet for our honor.
Oh, for heaven's
And we were the guest of honor, and they had a picture made showing after this big dinner. I think the dinner cost about $12,000.
Oh, for heaven's
Yeah. I had some pictures of that. I don't know where they are. And I sat right next to a man that he owned a brewery there. And I think he sent a barrel of beer down there, but they held it out because we were prohibition here. Well, anyway, and they had this picture, and they had me as a leading man, and how I conducted to the theater and the strike and all that down there. But they wouldn't let that picture go out because it was kind of hit the border on some kind of a law, I guess, that it was something.
Were you married at the time?
No, no, I married way a little bit later. You see, we bought the
You bought the theater.
bought the
The
theater.
old Overholser
All
theater.
over, sir. We bought it in 1917, I think, during that strike.
Yeah.
And we put in it was something.
Were you married at the time?
No, no, I married way a little bit later. You see, we bought the
You bought the theater.
theater.
The old Overholser
All
theater.
over, sir. We bought it in 1917, I think, during that strike.
Yeah.
And we put in during the strike. We put in a stock company there. It was the best that they ever had here. Some of those leading men, a little bit later, they both they were on Broadway. Fillmore, and they played at Madame X. I'm telling you that fella, when he defended, he didn't know that was his mother, that she was, you know, the story about Madame X. She was the woman of the street, you might call it. She was. And that speech that he made defending his mother, it was terrific.
Yeah, magnificent.
And then they played, I forget the leading man. It was a wonderful man. And the leading lady. We had some wonderful shows there. Stock shows, one a week. Wonderful.
And what happened after that, sir?
After that, well, we commenced to play 5 acts of vaudeville. 50 cents. We played Al Jolson there.
Al Jolson.
In person, not in pictures.
In person.
Yes, sir.
Right. Was there much of a Greek community around here at that time?
Oh, yes.
Quite a few Greek people?
Not too many, but quite a few. Quite a few. We have a nice church here.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
But I didn't know back in those days. I wanted to establish
Well,
the fact.
No, we didn't have a church there, but eventually, and this church here has never been in debt.
Well, that's a wonderful thing.
And up to date, it's all clear, and we had a policy not to borrow money not to spend money unless you have it.
Yeah. What came after the old Overholser Theater then? What were you into then?
Well, in 1930, we made a long term of lease with Warner Brothers, and we leased all our theaters. We had then, that time, well, during that strike, I forgot to tell you, during that strike,
Yes,
we
sir.
had to get together with the other theaters
Yes, sir.
to
Sort of an association. So you'd have some,
association. So we put in the interest of the, it was that time the Liberty Theater. It was the interest of the streets, Dr. Street and Allen Street,
yes, sir.
and followed by name McCall and Mr. and Barnes. And then the other interest was Powell and Crook. They had theater on Main Street. That was the first theater was built on a 50-foot lot. It used to be those 25-foot lots.
Was that the Majestic over here?
Oh no, the Majestic. No,
Okay.
no. No, it was on Main Street.
Oh, on Main Street. Sure.
Yes.
This is Sheraton.
Where the Main Street where now is that shoe store there. The first 50-foot theater was built there then. Can't think of the name. Anyway, we all pull our interests together, and finally we formed the Midwest Enterprise Company. And I have been its president for the 40 years, and this is what they gave me when we sold out the theaters and the buildings.
And when did you come into this theater, Midwest Theater?
We built this.
Built the building, didn't you?
We built this in 1930.
The building itself.
Yeah, that's the time when they come down here. Well, we made a deal in New York, but before they would accept the deal,
Yeah.
they had sent here powerhouse, water and powerhouse to examine our books of what we told them that what
Waterhouse,
business we
yeah.
were doing, Waterhouse. And they seen the theaters, properties, and
What company was that?
Warner Brothers.
Warner Brothers.
Warner Brothers.
Did you have any other theaters at the time?
Yes, we had. We were booking some big shows at the Shrine. We had the Palace Theater down here that used to play. Well, you remember anything about this? Oh, they had a Stockholm drama down there, but when we bought it,
Yes, sir.
we leased it for musical comedy, but musical comedy of this
Mhm.
small type. But this fellow, he was a good operator. And nobody else could make it go like he did. But he was paying his rent, and when we leased the theaters, we leased them all, and we made a deal contract that we wouldn't go in business for the next 10 years.
Mhm.
That was the deal. And we had the Orpheum, we had this, we had the Palace, and that on Main Street. I'll think of his name in a minute.
Well, then you made the deal with Warner Brothers for this theater here, right?
For all of them.
To build the building, then.
The building, we just finished it.
Mhm.
When they took it over, they opened it.
Mhm. But they only took over the theater,
The
not...
theater, not the building.
That's right.
No, that's right.
The building is still yours, or the Midwest...
It was then,
enterprise.
not now.
Mhm. Things have changed since then.
Well, we sold this whole thing to Cooper Foundation.
Uh-huh.
And the Folly, I forgot to say, now it's the Sooner Theater. They call it Sooner now. It used to be the Folly.
The Follies.
Folly, yes. The Empress was on Main Street.
Empress.
Empress,
All right.
Folly, the Orpheum, the Palace, and this theater, and well, in the auditorium out there, the Shrine Auditorium.
Yes.
We didn't own it, but we used to have the privilege to put the shows at the road shows.
Right.
That's what we're doing there.
Mhm.
So all that went in one deal to Warner Brothers
Mhm.
in 1930. And in 1946, they came down here and we made another deal, and we released them for another 20 years. This would have had the leases to run till 1970.
Oh.
But when Cooper Foundation
Yeah, see?
bought these buildings, the leases was on,
Mhm.
and they were collecting the rent,
Mhm.
and they were operating the building,
Yes.
the Cooper Foundation.
Mhm.
But that didn't work out for them very good because the theater itself was losing money, a lot of money, and the building was not paying proposition either. So they were looking for some way to get out.
Mhm.
Well, Warner's made him a proposition to get off the lease. They had about 6 years to go, 6 or 7 years to go more.
Mhm.
Let's see. Well, anyway, 6 years to go. And they paid him $425,000 to get out of the lease. Now then, the Cooper want to get rid of this other, what they bought.
Mhm.
And they sold, but piece by piece. They had that Tower Theater out there. They sold that to one of the Seaton boys, Rayburn.
Mhm.
And they sold this one and the Folly Theater, the Sooner Theater, to Barton. Barton owns now these 2 theaters. Pays them $300,000. When we remodeled the Orpheum Theater, we spent over $500,000. Oh, that was a beautiful theater. And Gardner, he bought the Orpheum Theater, or the Warner Theater, call it, paid him $105,000. And now they tore it down and say it's a parking lot now.
That's true.
That's the story.
Yes.
That's the story.
Now, the Midwest Enterprise Company, is that still in existence? That's
2 or 3 years ago. Wow.
that's gone.
Gone.
Yeah. Liquidated. Huh?
Liquidated.
This must have been a good theater town back in those days, wasn't it?
Oh, yes. Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Well, what else did you get into outside of the theater business?
Oh, I have some real estate on Main Street that had a headache now, all vacancies, and just haven't done anything since. At the time, I had some pretty good income from the rental of the theater, of the stores. But now, we had Kinney store down there.
Yes,
That their lease didn't expire for 2 or 3 more years, but they went out and rather to pay the rent and operate. Same as the Halliburton people.
Yes,
They went out rather than operate. And that's what happened to me on my Main Street property. I had a Dixie shop there. They were a chain store. They went out of business. They just went out overnight. Closed up and went out. With the lease on, but nothing you could do about it. So, you know what Main Street is now.
yes, sir. Yes.
There's no more retail street.
Well, don't you think actually that it's really going to come back into its own?
Well, it will, but it won't be in my time. It's going to be a long time before it'll come back, yes. I think it will.
Well,
If
Yes,
they ever put this pay plan in operation, if they ever complete that plan, that's a wonderful plan. Then this downtown here is going to be one of the most beautiful cities in the whole country.
Yes, sir. You're correct.
Because they're going to
Well, actually, completely redo the whole.
remodeling, and it's a wonderful plan. He's got a wonderful plan.
Well, I'll bet you see a part of it go into existence.
Well, I
Or go
hope
in-
so.
Sure.
Well, I hope so. I think this, what I think it's going to come pretty soon would be this Mormon Theater, whatever
Right.
they call it. That's going to be built, and this convention hall, that's going to be built.
Yes, sir.
But now, of course, that'd be just a part of it. But to make the whole thing complete, it's going to be beautiful. That fellow's got a beautiful, beautiful layout.
I suspect that you had quite a time in those days when it was you were working hard to make this thing go.
Well, we never go to bed till 1 o'clock, and every day and Sunday all the time.
Well, in the theater business, you just don't. You're there all the time, aren't you?
Yes, yes.
I had a talk with Mr. Lowenstein the other day.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. And
He was my first press agent at Delmar Garden.
That's right. That is correct.
Did he tell you that?
Yes, sir. He sure did. He has the highest regard for you.
Well, we liked him very much.
And his father actually started that theater, didn't he?
No.
No, his
I'll
father
tell-
was in the butcher business. That's right.
I don't know his
Yeah.
father, what business was in, but the man that built that building, he went broke. He went to California, I think. He went broke, and I think that.
That's correct.
Morris, he put in a lot of money. Last 10 years, maybe. He fixed up very nicely. He's got a nice little theater there.
He said, as I recall it, that as of right now, he's the only one remaining in business in the original spot in which he started.
That's it. That's correct. That's correct. That's correct. That's correct.
And he's down there every day.
Yes, well, he just, he's pretty well to do.
Keeps him out of mischief.
Yeah, well, more or less, just like I'm doing.
Uh-huh.
I come down here not out of mischief because you stay home, you get stale.
That's true.
And it's diversifying your thinking or what you're doing.
Well, it keeps you active, keeps you alive,
Yeah,
doesn't it?
yes, I like it.
How about your wife?
Oh, she's wonderful. I have the most wonderful wife that a man ever had.
Who was she?
I'm really fortunate to have such fine person.
What was her name?
Her name was de la Montagne. She is French descent. Her father was French.
Uh-huh. And you meet her here
Here.
in Oklahoma City?
Oklahoma City, yes. She came down here visiting with some friends down here, and she came out to Delmar Garden, and I got acquainted out there, and some of my friends, they introduced her to me because they thought I might be a pretty good guy or something.
When did you get married?
We married in Chicago. She was from Chicago,
Uh-huh.
in a Greek church. She
Uh-huh.
was baptized in a Greek church in our religion.
Uh-huh.
She was baptized there, and we took a trip to Greece. Then I took our honeymoon to Greece. We stayed there about 7 months in my old home
Uh-huh.
where I was born. And she had seen how poor I was.
Well, by then you were doing fairly well, though.
Well, that time, yes, I was all right. But I mean, where I was born.
Yeah. Well, when did you get married?
In 1919,
1919.
right after the First World War.
How many children?
No children.
No children.
One died and no more.
Mm-hmm. Well, you and your wife have done quite a bit of traveling, haven't you?
Well, yes, we have. We practically went all Florida and all in this country and
Uh-huh.
all over Europe, France, Italy, Sweden, London.
Well, apparently you liked Oklahoma because you always came back.
Well, Oklahoma is a wonderful place. Wonderful place. There's no place, I don't care where you go,
Uh-huh.
that you find anything that is better than here in America. I don't care where you go.
That's
It's
true.
all right for a month or 2 months or 3 months. You can go to Riviera and you can... We find the Riviera, the Italian Riviera, very, very fine.
Uh-huh.
Very fine.
Have you been away this year?
No, not this year. We were gone for over 10 months in Greece, so we're going to stay here for a while now. And after all is said and done, when you get at my age, you don't find conveniences as well as you do at your own home.
That's true.
And when you get my age, you like comfort.
How old are you now?
88.
88 years old. When's your birthday?
It's in March, about 9th of March.
9th of March, you'll be 89.
Yes.
That's been a good 89 years. You look wonderful.
Well, for one thing that I'm thankful for, that my eyesight is pretty good and my hearing is pretty good.
Yes, sir.
And I walk all right. but outside of something else that I'm not here to mention, since it's going to be on the record, I don't want to say it's things that not so good.
Well, you've been active, though. You still remain active all the time.
Well, yes, out there where we live, we have about 30 acres. I live
Where?
on 4,000 North Kelly.
Oh, yes.
We built out there when there was no out in the country. Now we're not only in the city limits, but we have shopping centers right next to our fence there. I had to give them 25 feet in order for their big trucks to serve their stores back there. So really, we're in town now.
You sure are.
Yes. Yes.
When did you build that place?
We built that in 27, but before that, we built a garage apartment there before I left and put in a fence all around the place. And we had this garage apartment, fireproof, and has for 2 cars, and has about upstairs has about 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms now, with I call a bedroom because we put in a big long porch.
Oh.
And that used as a bedroom now for a tenant out there. Have a man out there, and not a tenant, you might call it, but he works for OG&E, and he lives out there with his family. He's got a wife and 1 child, nice bright boy, about 10 years old. And he helps out there in the evenings when he gets through with his work in the garden, and on Saturdays and Sundays. And anything goes wrong in the house, he's a maintenance man.
Oh, yes.
Air conditioning or anything that goes wrong, he's right there to fix it. So I have a really wonderful man out there.
Those are nice conveniences
Nice,
to have.
yes.
A fine person like
Fine
that.
person, yes. We crazy about him.
How's your wife feel?
Well, she feels pretty good. She feels pretty good. She's much younger than I am.
You've seen a lot happen in this old town, haven't you, Mr.
Well,
Sinopoulo?
when we built that Delmar Garden out there,
Yes, sir.
they had this trolley car,
Yes.
and they ran down there because we had this amusement park, and we run excursions. The railroads used to run people here from Joplin, from
Well, imagine from Tulsa and from all over.
oh, from all over. They give them railroad concessions, whatever they call, round trip tips, and they come down there and they watch the shows, and they see the baseball part there, and they come over and they get a drink and sandwich. They told us that they sold out there a carload of flour or carload of people. They bring their customers out there to entertain them, because that was the only place of amusement, and we did run a nice place out there. If I do say so myself, we didn't have to arrest a person out there. If anybody got a little bit tippy, we had an officer out there, which we paid him. And he'll take them, put them in the car, and send them home. And so, and I'm going to tell you something.
Yes, sir.
Those days, they had for change, they had silver dollars. Silver.
Silver
No
dollars.
paper. And Saturdays and Sundays, when we had to have a lot of change for the concessions and all that. And the receipts from Saturday and Sunday, they'd be quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a satchel about that big.
Yes, sir.
Where we carried that money home. And we lived down there about 2-3 blocks from the park.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the officer, he'll take us home. And sometimes he says, boys, he says, it's a bit last car, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Can you make it by yourselves? I said, yes, we will. So we walk from there with the money to where we live. We live down there on Western Avenue. You think today we could be out of there 2 feet before somebody hold you up with all that money?
Unfortunately, that's true.
And we never had anything happen to us with all that money. And they talk about people that those days that be rough riders or
Yeah.
people, but they were just as nice. They'll come out there and behave themselves.
Mm.
We had a wedding out there on an elephant.
A wedding on an elephant.
We had a publicity man,
Uh-huh.
and he'll get them to do that by giving them $50 or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And I think Judge Zwick that time, he was the what do you call it, wedding. He performs the
Yes.
the services.
Oh.
And we had babysitters down there, beauty babysitters, and we never had anyone to go away without getting a sack of flour or some coffee or a sack of sugar or something. This way, they go out to the merchants, and they'd get all the donations, you know.
Yes, sir.
And nobody went away there without a big prize. We had a lot of fun. We had a fellow out there that he would give anybody $25 if we discover who he was.
Mm-hmm.
And he dressed as Buffalo Bill.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how he did, but they never did got any of the money.
You see a lot of history made around here, and everything that's happened is a historical aspect of what made this city. Of course, the theater business has changed a lot.
Oh yes, oh yes.
What they're
Well, this theater business, like you're talking about, of course, I'm fond of the stage show.
mm-hmm.
First, we had minstrels there, and you know how colorful they are. They go out on the street, you know, with
Oh,
their-
wonderful.
wonderful,
Great.
and Ziegfeld.
It's too bad we couldn't have a good one today, isn't it?
Oh yes, Cohen and Harris,
George M. Cohan.
George M. Cohen, and Little Dockstader.
The list is just endless because they were all the greats that were
Yes,
here.
yes, yes, sir, yes, sir. Yeah, they were wonderful those days.
Are you off to Greece this year, do you think?
Not this year, no.
Not again, huh? Not for a while. Huh?
Not for a while. If I
Do you think?
not this year, no.
Not again, huh? Not for a while. Huh?
Not for a while. If I have my health and keep on, I might. Well, because over there, it's
pretty rugged, isn't it? Comparison.
Well, you don't have to entertain, and you don't have to be entertained too much. And there's a nice place there now. The government has built quite a few, like a motel,
Mm-hmm.
16 or 18 rooms. But the rooms, they're just as good as the Hilton Hotel. We stopped at the Hilton when we went over there
Uh-huh.
for 2 or 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we went to Sparta, we stopped at this Xenia, they call Hotel Xenia. Then they have a restaurant there and everything you want, big rooms, just
Oh.
like the Hilton Hotel, no better. And baths and all that,
Sure.
modern and everything in every respect. And the living cheap. $17 a day, meals and rooms and everything complete. If you didn't take your meals there, why it'd be less than that because the room is only about $4 or $5 a day.
Mm-hmm.
The government regulates that because they
Right.
want the tourists there. And they're full there in touring season. And in Sparta there, lately they discovered a lot of these mosaics and some of the myth, you might call it,
Mm-hmm.
come to pass that those things did happen. Like the Palace of Menelaus, you know,
Yes, sir.
and in other places where the Ulysses, whatever you call them. We stopped in that little island where he was cast when they found him, you know, in that little island of Ithaki. Now they call that Ithaca. See how that pronounced in English.
Uh-huh.
Very picturesque place.